It's Vancouver's podcast on the Canada's Podcast Network.
So Rebecca, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I started in terms of my business or
Yeah.
just in
Well,
general?
and you as a person.
Yeah. I started my business, Pivot and Pilot Creative. We're a branding agency, creative agency in Vancouver. We focus on helping our clients in food, beauty, and wellness stand out and capitalize on their first impression. And we do that through branding, e-commerce, uh, packaging design, and ad campaigns as well. So we've been doing that. We've been in business for 5 years. I'm very active in the business community. I'm really feeling bummed out about not having that many networking events to go to and that kind of thing, but podcasts are perfect for this type of environment. And yeah, I'm part of a lot of like women's business women in business groups, as well as a few other entrepreneur organizations. And I love to do like speaking events, as well as also like webinars and things like that. I also, I guess on my own time, I do stand-up as well as like improv and things like that, which is also totally on hold, unfortunately. But yeah, right now I'm just putting it all, just learning TikTok and trying to use that as an outlet, I guess.
Okay, so
But
tell me a joke. Make me laugh.
That's what people say all the time. I don't know. I mean, it'll come up in conversation, I'm sure. But yeah, it's a tough, it's a weird time right now. Yeah, for all those types of things. All these things that I'm like, my identity is like, well, how do I? But that's how I was in the pre-apocalyptic world. Now I'm just working on my business from home, and we're helping the clients that we can help through this whole process.
Tell me a little bit about what was the lead up to 5 years ago and starting the business? What's in your guts? What's in your blood?
Yeah, so I started as a storyboard artist. I went to school for animation. I was very passionate about animation, grew up loving the way that you could tell stories in a different way than you could with live action. And I loved things like The Simpsons and all that kind of thing growing up. So I wanted to pursue animation. I always have been more of a creative. I love working with creatives, but I'm not necessarily the best draftsman, for example. I'm much more focused on like storytelling and communicating through art. And so it was a great fit for a storyboard artist, which is where you are. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's oh, you do? Okay.
I do, yeah. But if you could describe it.
Yeah, so in live action, you're filming things and you basically film a lot of content and then you cut it down and edit it that way. Whereas with animation, you're creating the content. So it's much better to have a plan in place that's very thorough and approved before you start building stuff, because it takes it's like 12 drawings a second when it comes down to the actual animation. So you don't want to waste time and energy on creating a scene, right? So storyboarding really is rough sketches. I'm sure you may have seen it in old Disney behind the scenes footage where there's a guy kind of looking at cue cards that have little drawing sketches on them and he's acting out a scene. So storyboard artists are essentially taking a script, and then we are the director, or the cinematographer, sorry, the actors in a lot of ways. Sometimes we'll have scratch sound to work with, but we basically will be putting together a scene and making kind of the broad choices or the acting choices. So if you were to say, a character came in the room and was like, hello, you could have them enter in dramatically. You could have them say hello, or they could be like hello, or so you're really putting in that piece. Anyway, so after I did storyboarding for a few years, I then realized the industry just wasn't, there wasn't a lot of growth opportunity in the industry at the time.
Why was that? What was the conditions?
I think it's a hard, it's going through a bit of a transition right now. There's no union or anything like that, like for actors or in the traditional film industry. And I think there's a lot of competition with overseas labor and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of grants and everything like that used for the industry here, and the government's really supporting it. But when it comes to, there's not as many rules in place. So there's a lot of things like overtime, unpaid till like 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. and not getting any overtime pay and things like that were really just not great business practices, but it was something that I guess they could get away with, so they wanted to do it. But yeah, it just felt like when I spoke to the people that were in positions that I would want to work towards, what they were being paid and the hours they were being asked to come in just didn't make sense to me. It didn't really add up. And I always wanted to start a business. So I had a business for a while growing up called Garden Girls, where me and my friends would just garden for local community, people in our community. And I also was a figure skating coach. So I really had that I loved being in charge of my own schedule and leading a team. And like I said, I think my strong suit really is about rounding up creatives and understanding creatives and understanding and recognizing the difference between something that's 80% good and 100% good. And that appreciation and understanding of the creative process helps me to manage people that are essentially just better at design than I am. So my business partner, Alejandro, he is really everything that you see from Pivot and Pilot is him. He was working at a design agency, a small startup at the time, but I was working on storyboarding, and we decided to come together and start a business because he wasn't feeling that he wasn't able to get full-time employment at that company, and he really needed that for his citizenship and applying to stay in Canada. And then I was feeling quite lost in my situation as well. So we came together, and we were friends since all through university, and we even lived together briefly at one point. And so it just made sense. It kind of flowed together, and we started in my house, and in my apartment, and slowly built up our client base through friends. And we spent the first year funding our portfolio really, and just trying to make as much money as we could, but really just start to get a base of work, and then slowly built up our reputation through connecting with people and building it up that way. So we took the leap and then built it out that way. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Anyway,
welcome to working from home, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, investing the year in building your portfolio, because I get the sense of, if I could just say, as you're starting up in a creative space, the portfolio is so important, because it's really the only thing that differentiates you from the next creative agency.
Totally.
So, and yet you don't have clients yet to build a portfolio. What did you do in that first year to build up a portfolio, and and why did it take that long? Tell me about that process a little bit.
Well, I really understood right away that my network at school was going to be more important than anything I learned. So Alejandro and myself were very, we're just social people in general, but we really focused on leveraging that network in the first year. And we just talked to all of our friends in our program and said, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you have any family or friends that need any kind of design work? And then we just got a bunch of people that needed it that way. And we, and then that's essentially how we built our business too, by the way, is just through continuing to build our network and talk to people and tell people what we're doing, which can be hard sometimes for people to do, but it is, but truly I think, and I still believe that the value of this education we got was really the people we met and the people that we worked with. I mean, especially when it comes to Alejandro and myself, like we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if we didn't meet in university. So that was really important to us. So we leveraged that group first. And then we didn't work for free or anything like that. But we did have very competitive pricing. I think we were charging like $30 an hour or something like that at the beginning. And we didn't undervalue ourselves, but we were also just being super competitive in the marketplace. We didn't have an office or anything like that. So we were pretty flexible with our finances as well. There's not a lot of startup costs when it's service-based. So we built it up that way. And then as we did those projects, of course, if we were only getting paid a certain amount now, we would have to adapt the scope of the project to fit that pricing. And that hourly rate. But at the beginning, we just simply were like, we're getting some money and we're just going to blow it out of the water every time. And we're going to, make it big and make it a really great piece so that we have something that we can then go to the next person and get. So we built it up that way. Not that it was free, but it was definitely a lot of like unpaid hours of overtime. And we were also learning at the beginning, right? So it's fair for us to be spending a little bit more time on things. Now we're just so much more efficient because we've been doing it for so long. And I think our pricing has grown with us, right? As we've built up our business. So
awesome. And let's talk about the sectors you're working in: food, beauty, wellness. What trends are you seeing at the moment in each one of those?
Well, I mean, with food, for example, that's a great one because right now, it's a great one to talk about. It's not like, I think all business right now is quite stalled. People are very worried about their finances right now, or they're really doing well, so they're very busy. So food is a perfect example of that dichotomy happening. So there's the food packaging companies. So we specialize quite a bit in packaging design. We not only help them stand out and look great on shelves and pop on that shelf, but also helping them through the claims review. Claims are different in the US versus Canada. So we really have to, when we do a lot of work where we're bringing one product from one country to the other, for example, there's things like translation or just policies that like Canada, we can't have an image of a heart on a product that doesn't have heart benefits like omega-3 or things like that. So there's all sorts of different rules and regulations. And then we also help them through certifications like keto-friendly or allergy-free if you want to be in. We also help them through their branding and positioning. So with the certifications, we're also consulting them on things like if they are going to be branded and positioned as like a lunch snack, then something like getting certification that it's peanuts free or peanut free is extremely important and integral to their success. So that's one piece. And then we also help connect them with the correct packaging manufacturers. Different products require different packaging for shelf stability, but also so that it's HACCP certified or anything like that if you are pursuing big contracts like Costco. But if you're going a boutique route, it's a little bit less important. You can kind of get a glass jar and it works out okay. But all of those things we're considering when we're thinking of our clients. And we also sustainability is a big trend right now. So some trends we're seeing in there is sustainability is big. There are some really cool technology in terms of scanning packaging, just scanning the actual packaging to understand how to categorize it in terms of recycling. So more AI and advanced procedures are being put in place for not only recycling, but also we're seeing AI used in a lot of other ways in agrotech, actually. So that's another thing is through what we're seeing now with COVID, we're seeing both, we're seeing some of our clients, so for restaurants and things like that, it's very hard on them. We've been doing a lot of like free updates to their websites to make sure that they can do takeout, things like that to support them in this time. And then on the other side is the packaged services where they're just like flying off shelves. They're seeing unprecedented boosts in sales at grocery stores. But we haven't really had much of an opportunity to get in touch with them because they're just so busy trying to keep up with demand. And then, but I'm sure we'll start to see some really cool new products and innovation with that kind of cash that they've got on hand. And then we're seeing, and then overall in agrotech, there's so much exciting things happening with vertical farming. I think COVID is also bringing up a lot of conversation around, or thoughts around, sustainability of the current globalization that we're living in terms of like the way that the economy is structured. We're all very reliant on shipping food from one place to another. We're where we're really seeing there's technology and innovation coming up in place that would help to serve us better, such as vertical farming, AI, making sure that would not only help in terms of sustainability, but also just to meet demand and keep up with and keep things a bit more local. So yeah, so those are some big things that we're seeing there, but it's and there's a lot going on. I mean, it's a crazy time. So
it is
I'm not sure. I can't.
Time.
All those trends might change next week, right? So
exactly. One thing I can add, I've got a connection for you, because one of the fellows in the co-working space that I work out of is he has technology. They're little tiny microchips, and they, you stick them on any kind of food or packaging product, and it's a whole consumer engagement process from farm to table. So if it was fish, for instance, you would know where they were farmed, which farmer caught it, right? Or which fisherman caught it, which boat. You can watch the distribution through blockchain being added into the blockchain, to which store it was sold out of, to where. Wow. And so, the idea of mad cow disease that, eradicated the beef industry here in Canada a couple of times, is that would be eliminated, because they would be able to go, oh, there's the source, there's the individual cows. So
yeah, there's a lot going on in traceability for things like that, for recalls and all of that. It's so that's really cool. Yeah, I'd love to get.
Yeah, I'll make that connection for you. Tell me about wellness. How are things going in the wellness side of things?
So wellness is hard. Chiropractic and things like that are suffering. We have a few medical aesthetics clinics, and they're also on pause. Yeah, wellness is a tough one. We have a pain management center that's supposed to be opening this year, but they're delayed significantly because of renovations. It's tough to do renovations right now. We also, who else? So yeah, there's recovery clinics. We haven't touched base with them, but they are probably seeing a surge of addictive personalities coming out of again. And yeah, in terms of products like greens or supplements and things like that, that's thriving. Yeah.
Exactly. It's interesting. I was a part of a podcast, COVID podcast. What's going to happen is, and one of my buddies is a futurist, and he was talking about food and potentially the idea that slow food, some food production and consumption will become slow, right? The farm, the raw product, etc. The meal sharing, it will become almost more of a luxury or more intentional. And then everything else that is really just, lunch snacks on the fly, the stuff where you're like, I just need to be full and have nutrients in my body right now, will probably become pill form, right? It'll become, the supplement idea will become a whole entire meal for those. So the technology, egg technology, basically. It was an interesting conversation, right? It was, I'm not working in either one of those spaces, but how that comes down to packaging, I think, and branding will be really important.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to talk to that person too. But yeah, that's it's true. There's so much going on. There's so much going on in the food space right now. It's crazy. It feels like there are so many. It feels like there are a lot of people that are thriving in this environment, and then, or there's not a lot. There's this small portion of people that are really, really thriving, and then a lot of us that are not. And then I feel very weird. I'm in like a very medium position where we're just kind of like, well, we're scaled back a bit because like half of our clients are in a position where it's not the time for them to be investing. And then there's the other half that are fine, so it's interesting.
It's shift. And I kind of say, energy is the only real currency because it's indestructible, right? So
that's a great point.
Things are in maybe shutdown mode or different systems and flow, but we're still doing things. We're just doing things differently. And I'm unfortunately one of the people that are going more in the curiosity about where we're going to land and the better side of where we're going to land. Not knowing how it's going to look is totally. It's tough, right? How do you as entrepreneurs or as business people that's our life is dedicated to planning, 1 year, and then risk management, and all of that is completely thrown out the window. We have no control of that. It's really day to day. Opportunities are popping up all over the place. Conversations are happening a lot. If you could wager a guess, Rebecca, where are you going to be in 5 years?
Well, in 5 years, it's a harder question now, I guess. But I think in 5 years, I just hope that we're continuing we're launching our YouTube channel soon. We're going to launch it sooner, but we just weren't sure about the timing. We're going to figure that out. But I would love to have an established YouTube channel and more of a presence in terms of like speaking events and that kind of thing. But in terms of our business, I hope that we're just continuing with what we're doing now. We're going to see more and more of our products on shelves. It's so exciting to see a packaging design when it's completed. I hope that, we're a leader in the e-commerce space as well, helping, and I hope that we get, and I mean, so many changes are happening so rapidly, but I'm more and more interested in the agritech space and seeing our items on shelves, and maybe some awards and things like that down the line could be fun. But I don't really have, I like how things are. I don't plan to grow much bigger in terms of our team. I love being boutique. I love having our niche. And maybe we'll become more and more niche into one of the verticals. That's probably what I would
will happen. And so on your YouTube, what is the messaging? What's like, would it be you on being one of the key speakers on the YouTube channel?
So we have two things. We have our pivot and pilot conversations where we're talking to other people. And our main focus on our channel is discussing.
Sorry, keep going.
Our YouTube channel focuses on how design influences consumer behavior. And so that's our main, our main topic.
Okay.
But Alejandro and myself will be doing, we'll have the conversations where we've been doing live events actually where we do panel talks. And now we would probably move more to like individual interviews, considering the climate now. But we did our last event literally the day before everything shut down. So that was crazy. But we did our conversation panel about featuring sustainable inventors. So, or entrepreneurs, and they all created their own products that were sustainably focused. And so the first part is the conversations, and then we also have our And Then Some series. So we talk about just other fun facts, but those are shorter videos where Alejandro and myself are just going to be touching base on certain topics. So we have one coming out about earning attention versus demanding attention, and one about the difference between US and Canadian policies in terms of packaging. So those are first
combination of thinking and applied solutions in there, right?
Yeah, like interviews with experts that we admire, and then that's more of a focus on them, and then we have our focus on us, which is our smaller videos about certain
nice
that we're noticing. Yeah.
Now, Rebecca, you're in Vancouver?
Yeah.
What do you love about it?
Well, right now I am loving that we live in a city where we have a beautiful seawall. I love, I just love that it's outdoorsy here and that they haven't shut down all of those things. So we can still go for hikes and we can still go to the beach if we're being respectful of space, obviously. And I just love how I love how it's a small city, but it's growing and booming so quickly. So that was a reason why I am originally from Ontario, and I was thinking about, I did have to make that choice of, do I stay here or do I go home? And there is so much, and we do a lot of business in Ontario too for that reason, but there's so much going on there, but it's very established and there's a lot. Whereas Vancouver is growing a lot right now. So it was it was a nice opportunity, I thought, to get into a position where we're more well-known in Vancouver and then grow the business that way. But funnily enough, our business is quite, like, we even have business in New Zealand and things like that. So it's not necessarily all done in person or in Vancouver. But at the beginning, that was the thought I had for sure. I just was really admired that. But Vancouver's cool. And there's for like the comedy stuff, there's a good comedy scene. A lot of support that way too. So yeah, I mean, it's a growing city.
Canadians are kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like a little dry sense of humor. If do you have, so in that design thinking, if somebody wanted to get a little bit of insight onto how design affects consumer behavior, do you have any recommended readings or videos that people can tap into?
I really love the podcast 99% Invisible. I think that one is great. And it's really more about design in general. But it really is about how design influences people. I also, in terms of customer, I mean, it's more so I tend to just follow more businesses who are like specific to maybe packaging or their thought leaders in terms of like social media and marketing. I follow a blog from like Junction. They're called Junction Consulting, and they have great blogs. I mean, I don't know. I consume a lot of, and kind of like you said, back to kind of what you said earlier about like that loss of control kind of thing and all of that. Like, I feel like I'm an interesting entrepreneur in the sense that I don't really have that. I'm not really I'm very like go with the flow and adaptive. We're called Pivot and Pilot because we're very adaptive. And I think I'm not that type of thing doesn't cause me too much stress. And I feel like when it comes to the stuff that I'm consuming as well, it's really like a lot of what I consume is just inspiring things or fiction or just things that kind of help me think beyond. I don't know what the industry is right now. So I like to think of definitely people that are in related fields rather than just like always consuming content that is totally about marketing. I kind of find that my brain gets like fried from that. And I find that we don't come up with like solutions that are as creative that way, maybe like if we're just following or hopping on the latest trend, although we do have to be aware of those things. But it's definitely, I think we're more interested in just learning about the industry from other business owners or from just keeping tabs on the industry. I don't know if I answered that very well, but I could think about that more. I have to think about a list of things that I listen to and read, because it just like pops up in your inbox and then you go like, some days you have time for it, some days you don't. You click on it or not. But I'm very active in like terms of I find that probably the most stuff that I do is like talking to people and going to events and webinars and things like that. Right now, that's something that I'm struggling with. So I have been turning more to like listening to podcasts and reading some stuff. But
absolutely,
I have to think about that one a bit.
No problem.
Yeah.
How can people connect with you post podcast? What's the best way?
I think the best way is LinkedIn or Instagram right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and through email, I guess, or my website. Our website is pivotandpilot.com, but yeah,
And
Instagram is a great way.
I love the name Pivot and Pilot, by the way. It's that whole, it just kind of, it feels like what every sort of small business owner, entrepreneur feels like, right? We're constantly pivoting, but let's try and pilot our own plane, control the things that we can, and don't worry too much about the things that we can't. It's really kind of the mantra of existence right now globally. And that's
it's kind of everybody's been saying the word pivot, and I'm just like, yep.
Oh God. And so I was like, I've got to talk to Rebecca. She just, like, the brand name just embodies how I think everybody's feeling right now. So
it does speak to our approach. I mean, like, we've just, and kind of like I said, like the planning for the future thing, I'm not that great at it. I mean, I have certain goals in terms of our like, I want to see our products on shelves, and I have like kind of visions in that way, but I don't I think it's really important to just stay adaptive, and you never know what's going to happen, and this time kind of really proves that. I think before, people thought maybe like, oh, well, that's kind of a weird philosophy, but it's really, like, it's true. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, and things, at least for our business, like, we've really thrived by going with the flow and taking the opportunities that excite us and leaving the ones that aren't exciting, even if it seemed to be part of the plan or something like that. It's not that we don't have goals and plans, like we do. We set those goals each year and everything, but I think in general, I think it's better, instead of goals, to just focus on values, maybe. So a value-based approach can be better for at least my mental health, just to be more like, I want to make sure that in my business, I always have room for my, side things that I want to do. I want to make sure in my business that I'm always happy to talk to our clients. Like, we're being picky about our clients and taking on the clients that we vibe with and feel excited for, and have a product that's innovative and exciting. One of the things that kind of, I guess I'm getting off track, but one of the things too that we focus on is that our clients, like, everyone needs to understand that design can't do the heavy lifting for you. Like, it's not a decorative practice what we're doing. It's really more about focusing on communicating who you are, who you're for, and why you're different in the most efficient and effective way. And that is what design is, and that's what our job is. And it's not, a crappy product is not going to sell itself, and no amount of design is going to help. So not only does your brand have to shine through in terms of like standing out and looking great, but it also has to be consistent in terms of, if you're promoting if one of your brand values, for example, is sustainability, and or diversity, for example, and you're posting all these posts and beautiful marketing with these diverse models, and they're eating your product, and you're showcasing it that way, but then your staff isn't diverse and you aren't really sustainable in your business practices, you're going to get canceled, right? So it's very, like, that's what branding is. It's really finding and nailing down what your core values are and who you are, so that you can be consistent with your growth. Yeah, you can
effectively,
speak it,
right?
All of those things, and then that's all of those things working together to create that brand, right? We can communicate anything, but if you're not living it, then you're going to get called out on it, and it's not going to work. So we're just finding what's existing in the brand, and we're finding the best angles and the opportunities within the brand, and we're just bringing light to that and communicating that efficiently, right? Rather than making it glittery or making it or hopping on a trend. So
embellishment, exactly. Rebecca, it has been such a pleasure. Appreciate it. Any last words for an audience at Canada's podcast?
Not yet, but
Okay.
yeah.
And I will give contact details for where to find you, which will be really important if people want to look it up and, you know, check out what Pivot and Pilot is all about. So thank you for joining us today, and best of health to you and your family and crew.
Thank you.